moderate this.
This
Won't be saying
conference will
anything.
now be recorded.
Yeah. So Lalita will be the moderator for the session. Over to
Yes.
Lalita and you. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you, Srikanth.
Yeah, we'll start. Lalita, are you there?
Hello,
Lalita?
can you hear me? Yeah,
Yeah, we can.
Now I can hear you.
Hello.
Yes, Lalitamba. Hello.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining this session. Can we start? Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. I'm audible, right? That's all I was trying to say. Okay. Katyayani ma'am is a freelance journalist since 33 years, writing on development and civic issues. She has been heading Civic Bangalore, an organization, as an executive trustee since 2005. She has been advocating about strengthening of ward committees in the High Court. She also has been championing the issue of school dropouts in the High Court and was instrumental in getting more than a lakh children back to school. She was also instrumental in getting a High Court order mandating the constitution of area sabhas in Mangalore for the first time in the state. Welcome, Katyayani ma'am. I think this was just short and crisp. It is our endeavor to have you today on this particular session and help us with and today's session, as we all know, is on the importance of ward committee meetings. Ma'am, first I
Thank
would
you.
like to understand, why do we need ward committees?
Yeah. We say that in a democracy, it's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. So to actualize that, we need a forum where we can participate and be the owners of this democracy. So for that, we especially need an institutionalized forum at our ground level, at the grassroots level. And the ward committee is supposed to fulfill that. Uh, why do we need it? Because if you look at what is happening in our city today, the development is being decided by somebody else. They are supposed to be our representatives, whether it's the councillors or the MLAs, and but we have no say in what they are deciding. So we see how Bangalore is developing into a very unequal city. It is non-inclusive, and at the same time, uh, it is environmentally unsustainable. What is happening? So you will have areas which don't have any water supply or sewerage, and on the other hand, when it rains, you will have floods. And the other thing is that you will have big flyovers and elevated corridors and so on, but you will have slums next to it. And so the inequality is growing. And though Bangalore is supposed to be one of the technologically forward cities growing the fastest in the country or in the world, the development is totally unsustainable also. You have Belandur Lake burning and frothing, and that becomes international news. So where is our where is a forum where we can decide how the city should develop, and where is the transparency about what is happening? Where is the accountability of the representatives to us? The elected representatives are so supposed to represent us and not do things what they want to do. They have to do things which the community of people who has elected them want them to do. But they never ask us about what we want. They do what they want. So we need a forum where we can demand transparency, where we can demand accountability of the elected representative who is closest to us, which is the councillor, and we want to participate in what is happening in our areas. So transparency, accountability, and people's participation is so essential in a democracy, and that is why we want the ward committees.
Oh, that was very nice, crisp saying transparency, accountability, etc. Before we proceed on details of ward committee, can you let us know the history behind ward committees?
Yeah. See, ward committees are not a new phenomenon. There is a lot of misapprehension that it happened only 2 years ago or something. The whole idea is, I have to go a little back to Gandhiji. During the freedom struggle, his dream was not just to send out the British. His dream was also to bring back self-administering units of governance at the lowest level, uh, at the village level, and he called it Grama Swarajya. That means people have to decide and own what happens in their areas, and they should self-administer. And decisions have to be taken about their assets and their resources by the people themselves. That was his dream. But in the constitution, when Dr. Ambedkar wrote the constitution, he did not have much faith in these grassroots level bodies. So, because he thought the village is a you know, is a unit where there's a lot of superstition, there's a lot of exploitation, there's a lot of caste discrimination, and he did not want that to be perpetuated. So, in his when the constitution was drawn up, he gave constitutional status only to the central government and the state government, the first 2 tiers of governance. And he did not give constitutional status to the third tier of government at the local grassroots level, which would be the village panchayat, or in the cities, the municipality. So what used to happen was that because it didn't have constitutional status, the municipalities very often used to be superseded by the state governments, and they would put some administrators there, and no regular elections would happen. So we didn't have a democratic base at the third tier of governance. So it went on like this till 1992, where everything used to be decided at the central government level or at the state government level, and the local people had no say in what is happening in their wards or at the local level, and they had no role to participate. And so, when Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister, he said that when 1 rupee is released by the central government to bring about real development at the grassroots level, only 15 paisa is reaching the people who are really backward and underdeveloped, and especially the SC, STs and the women are being left behind, and the development is not reaching them. So he decided that constitutional status has to be given to this third tier of government, so that there is permanency of a democratic structure at the third tier level, and that and the third tier of government should function like a unit of self-governance, that they should make decisions on their own, and not the central government or state government planning for them and telling them what to do or what things should be done. So, but when Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister, he wasn't able to pass this constitutional amendment. But when Narsim Rao became the prime minister in 1992, a constitutional amendment was brought, and to make the third tier of government a constitutional body, so that it could not be superseded and made ineffective by the state governments. So you would have heard of the Panchayat Raj Act. That is the parallel act, the 73rd constitutional amendment for the rural areas. But very few people have heard about the 74th constitutional amendment, which is for the urban areas, called the Nagarpalika Act. So the Nagarpalika Act is what applies to us in the municipalities, and that was passed in 1992, and a gazette notification was issued on 1st June 1993. And and the 74th amendment said there should always be an elected body at the third level, third tier of government. It should become a body of self-governance, and there should be regular election there, and the things that used to be done at the central level or the state level should now be done at the local level through a bottom-up process of involving the citizens in the governance, and planning has to happen by collating the ideas that come up from the bottom uh, uh, grassroots level by the citizens, and it should be collated at the district level, and representation should be given to the people who have been left out of the development process, that is the SC/STs, and women should find representation in the elected council. And that is how we have for the first time, women's representation in the municipalities. And also they said that in a big city where there is more than 10 lakh population, there should be a metropolitan planning committee to plan for the entire area in a bottom-up process. And the last thing was, in cities where there is more than 3 lakh population, even the third tier of government does not create enough proximity to the citizens. So there should be another layer at the ward level, and there should be ward committees. So that is how the idea of ward committees emanated through the 74th Constitutional Amendment.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a good history that we understood. Continuing, we want to know, what does this law say about the constitution of ward committees in Karnataka?
Yeah, see, the 74th Constitutional Amendment, it's a constitutional amendment, but since urban development is a state subject, the states have to put in these provisions that are there in the 74th Amendment into their own laws. The center cannot make laws for the states on urban development. So we had to amend our Karnataka Municipal Corporation Act. A time limit was given to put these provisions of regular election, the funds being transferred to the third tier of government to do the functions that they are now supposed to do, and also to provide reservation and so on. So in 1994, the Karnataka Municipal Corporation Act was amended to bring these provisions into the KMC Act. That is, a state election commission was set up to conduct regular elections to the third tier, and a state finance commission was supposed to be set up to decide how much money of the state government will be transferred to the local, the third tier of government to do the functions that are now supposed to be done by the third tier of government. That is decentralization of functions and devolution of those functions, and the functionaries and the funds. And so it was called 3Fs. That if the third tier has to do all these functions themselves, then the funds also have to be given, and all the functionaries also have to be given. And the functions, I forgot to mention that in the 74th Amendment, which are the functions to be done by the third tier was spelled out in the 12th schedule that is attached to the 74th Amendment, and that listed functions, 18 functions that are supposed to be conducted by the third tier of government. So that included urban planning, urban water supply, poverty alleviation, improvement of the slums, and several other municipal functions, the usual functions. But the main function of a municipality was supposed to be to plan for economic development and social justice. So it was not just about roads, maintaining roads and drains and lifting garbage. You have to actually work like a government and do all the tasks that a government does, including poverty alleviation, so to bring inclusivity in the development. So the KMC Act was amended in 1994 to include all these provisions and to put there that ward committees shall also be constituted. But what happened was, the central government allowed the states to decide how they want to form the ward committees. It was left to the states because it was a state subject. And our state government, they chose to, at that time, they chose to form ward committees for 3 to 4 wards joined together. One ward committee was thought of for 3 to 4 wards joined together, and the councillors of that of the 3 to 4 wards were supposed to be members of the ward committee, along with 5 others who were nominated by the state government. And then one of the councillors would be elected as the chairperson, and that was all. The thing was, there was no single ward committee for every ward, and so on. So anyway, that was how the KMC Act was amended in 1994.
With the law being there, and even after passing these laws in 92, 94, it has taken a long while for the ward committees to be stated or to be brought into the constitution of Karnataka and Bangalore. What was civic as an organization role in getting the ward committees going in Karnataka?
Yeah, civic was also formed at the same time when the 74th Amendment was passed. That was in 1992. And civic was formed by urban planners and a few architects and activists who wanted to have a say in the way Bangalore was developing at that time. So this 74th Amendment came in very handy for us. And because the goals of 74th Amendment were very similar to what civic wanted to achieve, that is bring more citizen participation and transparency and accountability and all. So when the 1994 amendment to the KMC Act was being drafted, we called the first conference of all stakeholders to tell the government how this amendment should be framed. So it was a historical seminar that we organized, and we gave a lot of suggestions to the government on how the amendment should be framed. And but of course, most of the amendments were not, our recommendations were not taken. And, hodgepodge kind of amendment was made to the KMC Act. I'll tell you why. Because the MLAs and the councillors were never in favor of the 74th Amendment, because it meant giving up their power to the people. So the whole slogan under which the 74th Amendment was framed was power to the people. And all the elected representatives, they think of themselves more as elected Maharajas, I'm sorry to say. So they did not want people's participation and people telling them what they should do. So they framed the amendment in such a way that most of the power remained with them, and the people had really no say in what they were doing. So it was a very weak act that they passed. So though we recommended many good suggestions, we gave a lot of good suggestions, those were not accepted. But whatever act had come, we also tried to influence the rules that were framed at that time. And the rules were framed only in 1997. They took 3 years to frame the rules. And once the rules were framed, civic went around educating all the residents' welfare associations. There were at least 400 of them by then. And we educated them about the provisions in the 74th Amendment and what is in the KMC Amendment Act now, and told them that the ward committees have to be constituted, and this is what you can do in those ward committees. And we did a lot of education on these issues. And we put a lot, and even though the rules were framed in 1997, they did not form the ward committees. Though it was a constitutional body that they had to create, they were not keen to form the ward committees. So we put a lot of pressure on the government, and the first ward committees were constituted in 1999, though the act was passed in 1994 in Karnataka. So it was because of civic that the first ward committees came into being in 1999 itself. It didn't happen 2 years ago, as many people think. And those committees were in existence till 2001. That was the first set of ward committees. But the problem was that each time the council's term ends, the ward committee's term also ends. So each time a fresh council is elected, the ward committees also have to be constituted afresh, and they were never willing to do that. So in 1999, when the ward committees were constituted, we tried to tell a lot of RWAs, please go and attend these meetings and see what is happening and try to make them function as per the 74th Amendment. And also, we did a study of how they were functioning. From 1999 to 2001, when the first ward committees were there, we did a study for the Institute of Social Sciences, and we found that nothing is really happening the way 74th Amendment was, envisioned. And the real people's participation was not happening. There were a lot of internal squabbles within the ward committees. The meetings were not happening regularly. So we gave all these study findings to the Ministry of Urban Development and also to the Institute of Social Sciences. Yeah. And again, in 2003, after 2001, elections were held to the corporation. Again, they did not form the ward committees till 2003. Then again, we put pressure on the government and said, why aren't you forming the ward committees? So when Mr. P.R. Ramesh was the mayor, he said, okay, I will form the ward committees. And again, in 2003, ward committees were formed, and they were in existence till 2006. But again, they were functioning very badly. Hello?
Yeah, we are hearing. Continue, ma'am. Yeah. So we understood a bit of history and the role of civic and other organizations that have been doing in getting these ward committees on and off and to get into the existence. Now, when we said citizen participation is the key here, what was done by the central government to make citizen participation stronger?
Yeah, because of our study findings, Mr. K.C. Shivaram Krishnan was heading that study actually. He did the study in 4 different states on how the 74th Amendment is working and how ward committees are working. And all those recommendations were given to the center. So in 2005, when they found that 74th Amendment is not really being implemented by the states properly, the central government thought of the Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission. And they told the states, see, if you implement the 74th Amendment in its true spirit properly, then we will give you money to develop your cities. So under the JNNURM, they made it a conditionality for the states to amend their Municipal Corporation Act again to make it really participatory. And so, because again it was a state subject, they sent a model bill called the Community Participation Law, and they said you implement this as a conditionality, only then we'll give you money under JNNURM. And they signed an MOU with all the states, and Karnataka also signed an MOU with them in 2005, saying, okay, we will amend our Municipal Corporation Act again to make the citizens' participation really effective. And though they signed the MOU and said we will do it by 2007, they didn't do it till 2010. So in 2010, the central government said you have not implemented this community participation law. You have not amended your KMC Act again. So we are not giving you money under JNNURM. So because the money was withheld, our government
we are losing the voice.
Ma'am, just a second. We are losing your voice is not.
Can we
your voice
only have the audio?
Got it passed. And we somehow got to know about it, and we tried to stop that process because no consultation had happened about it. And but finally, they amended the KMC
We lost
Act again
2-3
in
minutes,
February
madam.
2011, and that is the law. Actually, the central government in the model bill, they said you should enable. Oh, you're losing the voice.
Ma'am, actually, if you may turn off the video for a minute, I think it will
Oh, yeah,
help
yeah,
us.
okay,
And
okay. Let me see how to do that. Don't want to
maybe
leave
you
only.
can, yeah.
Oh.
You please continue, ma'am. Now.
Can you hear me now? I'll have to call my daughter. I see. Now,
There's a
better?
lot of.
Can you hear now?
There was
I switched off
disturbance.
the
Yeah, please
camera.
continue. Yeah, I think now it's better. Yeah. Please continue, ma'am. So I think with that
Can you hear?
earlier, last 2 minutes,
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of disturbance. You were talking about, I think 2011 or
Oh.
something. That is where I think people lost, we lost your voice. If you can repeat that, and then we'll continue.
Oh. Okay. So the model bill that the center sent, they said you should have area sabhas where every voter can participate. That is, a ward should have sub areas where every voter of that area can congregate and decide for himself what they want in their areas. So the concept of area sabhas was introduced in that model bill that they sent, and they said these area sabhas should have area sabha representatives. Those are small areas from within the ward, and the area sabha representative should preferably be elected by the citizens. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, please continue.
And the area sabha representative should sit on the ward committee as a member. And this is what they recommended. And they said you shouldn't have these 3 and 4 wards combined together to form a ward committee. You should have a ward committee for every ward. And they said the planning should happen at the area sabha level by the voters themselves, and the whatever is planned by the voters at the area sabha level should be collated at the ward committee level. You can have others also nominated to the ward committee, but area sabha representatives should also sit on the ward committee. Those were the recommendations made by the central government. But when you see what actually our state did in the amendment that they brought to the KMC Act in 2011, it was just letter of the law was followed, but the spirit was not followed. So again, they said area sabha represent. We will have areas, that is the sub ward delineations, and the area sabha representative will be nominated again by the councillor. He shall recommend the area sabha representative, and if the councillor does not do it, the commissioner shall do it within 90 days. But they did not allow in the law for the area sabha representative to sit on the ward committee. There was no link between the area sabha and the ward committee. They said 10 other people will be nominated to the ward committee, and the nomination will be done by the corporation, whatever that means. Who is the corporation? Is it the commissioner? Is it the mayor? It was not clear. There was only one sentence which said nomination by the corporation. And then they put something very peculiar and unique. They also said any decision taken by the ward committee can be vetoed by the councillor. So a veto power was put into the act in 2011. It was not there earlier, but they put in that there shall be a ward committee for every ward. That was the only sensible thing that they did. So, and the constitution of the composition of the ward committee was supposed to be 10 members to be nominated by the corporation, and 2 of them had to be SC, STs, 3 women, and 2 from any registered association within the ward, and 3 belonging to any other category. So the 10 members constituted the ward committee, but the area sabha representative was not made a member of the ward committee. So this is our 2011 law, which is currently existing.
And while we understood the main features of these 2011 law, what were the deficiencies that you think was there in this 2011 law?
I already mentioned that again, there were only nominations and no elections. Though the model bill had said area sabha representatives should be preferably elected, they did not go in for election. They did not want, parallel centers of power to the corporator to be created. So they did not allow for the, and there were no guidelines. How is this nomination to be done? What are the criteria? How do you decide if there are 10 SC ST members in a ward? How do you decide that these two people shall be the ward committee members? And so the whole thing was non-transparent. The way you formed the ward committee or the area sabha representative, there was no transparency. There were no guidelines also about how to do it. And the fact that all the geographical areas would not be represented on the ward committee because the area sabha representative was not supposed to be a member of the ward committee. So the other thing was that it did say that meetings shall happen every month. But if the meeting was not held, there was nothing anybody could do. It only said 1/3 of the members of the ward committee, they can give a requisition in writing that ward committee meeting has not been held, and they could only request. And in spite of that, if the ward committee councillor did not conduct the meeting, there was no other remedy. Yeah, so, but this veto power was there, which was the biggest hurdle for any kind of effective citizen participation. And so even though this law was passed in 2011, CIVIC did not press for the formation of the ward committees because we said with the veto power, there's no sense in going for the ward committees. So we had kept petitioning the government, asking them to remove the veto power. But they kept promising that they will remove the veto power, but they never removed it. So, and though there were elections held in 2010, fresh elections, no ward committees were also set up by the government. And we kept pressing them till 2013, please remove veto power, please remove veto power, but they did not do it. Yeah.
Now, how did ward committees then get constituted in 2013? Could you let us know?
Yeah. So what happened was in 2012, you'll remember that in Mawallipura and Mandur, we were just going and dumping mixed waste there, and it became a huge mountain of garbage, and the villagers started protesting that they don't want Bangalore's garbage there. So at that time, because the lorry drivers were being beaten up, garbage started accumulating in Bangalore. For a week, no removal happened of garbage. So somebody went to the court and they said BBMP has not done the mandatory function of removing garbage. And so the court took it up. And at that point, Leo Saldana of ESG also impleaded himself in that case and said that if only ward committees had been constituted, then the problem of garbage would have been solved locally, and this problem wouldn't have arisen. So then the court went into this, had a look at the law and said, why have you not constituted the ward committees? So in 2013, the court ordered, please constitute the ward committees. And so the councillors were asked to nominate 10 people, and the names were given to the court. And then, because it was an issue about ward committees, I also put in an impleading application, and we were able to speak in the court. And so I said, though the act has been passed, the rules have not been framed. So the court ordered rules have to be framed and within 1 month. But still, though the committees were formed, because the rules were not there, they could not function. And the rules were finally framed only in 2016. They took 3 years to frame the rules. So, and in 2016, by then, in 2015, fresh elections had happened. So again, ward committees had to be constituted again. But again, since the garbage case was not heard till 2017, the issue could not be taken forward. But when the hearings on garbage started again in 2017, we again went before the court and said, now the rules are there and elections has happened, fresh election. So please ask them to constitute the ward committees. So again, a fresh order was issued by the court in 2017. Please constitute the ward committees.
Ma'am, with so much of a background of ward committees getting selected and being they constituted at different phases, why ward committees have not been held regularly?
Yeah, like I said, because the court ordered again in 2017, please form the ward committees. Again, the councillors were asked to give the names, and we found that again they have given all names of their own party workers, or if it was a woman councillor, she gave the name of her husband and her relatives, and so it was full of nepotism and favoritism that continued because there were no guidelines on how to select the people who form the ward committee. And so when the same names were given to the court as the ward committees, we protested and we told the court there are no guidelines and people should be able to apply and become ward committee members. And so the court again ordered, let citizens apply to become ward committee members. But because of that, we told all citizens, please apply, and so that you can also become members of the ward committee. But again, though 1,000 people gave their application, the names were not changed. The same relatives and party workers were there in the ward committees. And we kept telling the court this should not be, but the court said, look, anyway, this case is about garbage. And so if you want to question the way the ward committees have been constituted, you file a separate petition. But anyway, now some ward committee has been formed. So let them start functioning and let us see how they function. If you still have problem, then we can look into it. And that is how the ward committees were constituted. And in November 2017, the court also ordered that let the ward committees meet by November 30th and plan for garbage, local processing of wet waste. And because of that order, ward committees met for the first time on November 30th, but only 25% of them met in spite of the court order. And very few of them actually prepared the action plan on garbage. But once the November 30th passed, again, they did not have the regular meetings. And so we had to, again in November 2018, we had to approach the mayor, and that was Ms. Ganga Ambike, and along with Citizens for Bengaluru, who had become active by then, we petitioned her and she announced that, okay, let ward committee meetings happen every month on the first Saturday. So that was a great achievement of the citizens of Bengaluru, that we got that we got the commissioner also to issue a circular saying let meetings happen on the first Saturday of every month. In spite of that, we have seen that meetings are not held regularly by everybody.
I think still that is a great start. I think many of the ward committees, while I also live in Ward 174, has been doing it. Hope that picks up and we attend to a lot of issues and as described in the ward committees. So now that state government has brought in a new bill for Bengaluru, how does this new bill address the issue of citizen participation through ward committee and area sabhas?
Yeah, the other big deficiency was that even though in the 2011 Act, it said that areas should be notified by the state government, no areas were notified and no area sabhas were constituted. So no, the voters of every area never had a chance to gather and make their own plans for their ward and give it to the ward committee and so on. And even today, the area sabhas for Bengaluru have not been notified. But we were lucky that last year we filed a petition in the High Court along with the Mangaluru Civic Group, asking that why are no area sabhas constituted and why are no ward committees also constituted in Mangaluru. Though it happened in Bengaluru, no ward committees have been set up in the other municipal corporations of Karnataka since 27 years. So we questioned that from Mangaluru specifically, and we got an order from the High Court saying areas have to be notified by the state government immediately, and ward committees are also to be constituted in Mangaluru soon after the election. So for the first time in the state, we've got a ruling from the High Court saying area sabhas should be constituted, but that has still not happened in Bengaluru. So that is how no area sabha is happening. And but in this new bill, let me just tell you what is in the new bill. There is a lot of confusion in the new bill. In the earlier act, it said 10 members should be in the ward committee. Now in the new bill, it is saying there's a lot of confusion because at one point it is saying 20 members will be there. But in another part, they are saying 10 members. So we really don't know, is it 20 or is it 10? And once it says 3 women, and then another time it says 50% women. So again, we don't know which is correct. And there are a lot of typing errors, and it is so badly drafted, this new bill. But one thing they have said is that the zonal commissioner will nominate the ward committee members now, and there shall be a zonal committee. Now, you know that in the council, right now, 198 councillors gather every month, and everybody doesn't even get a chance to speak. Only 3 or 4 people keep speaking, and the rest of them keep quiet. So it was a suggestion of Civic to the restructuring committee that was there a few years ago, in which Mr. Ravichandar was also a member. We had given a suggestion that to make it really effective, there should be an intermediate layer of zonal councils, where the councillors of that zone meet and decide for their ward. And now that suggestion has been accepted, and zonal committees have been put into this new bill, and the zonal commissioner is supposed to be chairing this committee, and he shall nominate the ward committee members, it says. And one good thing is that, but still there are no guidelines about how he will do it. And but a 30-day time limit has been fixed in the new bill, saying within 30 days of a council being formed, the ward committee should be set up. But it does not say that the ward committee meeting should happen on a particular day, the first Saturday, that we have already achieved actually, but it is not there in this new bill. And again,
thank you, ma'am.
the deficiency still continue. Yeah. Sorry?
No. Continue. Voice was breaking.
Yeah. So it says that, again, the meeting shall be convened in consultation with the councillor. The secretary should consult to call the meeting. So that is the problem we've been facing, that every time the secretary cannot issue a meeting notice on his own, on his or her own will. It's always had to be in consultation with the chairman, and if the chairman doesn't give a date, then the meeting cannot happen. But one good thing that is there in the new bill is that if the chairman is absent at a meeting, somebody else can chair the meeting. So that was a big hurdle for us. If the chairperson was absent, the meeting used to get adjourned. But in this new bill, they have a provision that somebody else can chair and the meeting can go on. But a big confusion is that the big list of functions that the ward committee should perform, like planning for the ward and ensuring that the money is spent properly. Whatever money comes to the ward should be spent properly. That has to be monitored by the ward committee. all those functions are there. But in the end, there is one sentence which says, whatever the ward committee says is only recommendatory. So, but on the other hand, it says all these functions shall be performed by the ward committee. Now, how do you monitor the money being spent? You are supposed to monitor it. And if you find that there's a lot of scam happening, to the zonal commissioner, see, all these scams have happened. The zonal commissioner may take it only as a recommendation and not take any action, because now it says ward committee recommendations are only recommendations, they are not mandatory. So this is a big confusion, and it weakens completely the role of the ward committee. Then, but one good thing is that in the new bill, there is no veto power. So that is also an achievement of civic, I should say, because, but let us not publicize this too much to the councillors, because then they may go and put it back. So let us say that, let us not talk about the removal of the veto power. Then the problem with the area sabha is that they have taken the suggestion of civic that the area sabha representative should sit on the ward committee, but they have put a proviso that he will not have any voting rights. He shall only be there as an invitee. So, and again, the area sabha representative is supposed to be nominated by the zonal committee. Again, there is no election of the area sabha representative. And yeah, I think, yeah, the other big problem is that how to define it. So the law says that in an area, up to 5 polling stations can be combined on one area. Now we know that in one polling station in Bangalore, there will be 3 or 4 polling booth areas voting there. One polling booth area has 1,000 to 1,200 voters. And now one polling station will have about 3 or 4 polling booth areas, which means there will be at least 4,000 voters in one polling station. Now, if you say one area is 5 polling stations, which is what is there in the law, up to 5 polling stations, then there will be 20,000 voters in one area. Now, can 20,000 people gather and decide anything for themselves at an area sabha meeting? So we have to that every polling booth area which has 1,000 to 1,200 voters should be a area, and area sabha should be for every polling booth area and not for 5 polling stations. So that is one big flaw that I see in this new bill. Yeah, and yeah, I think now it is time we went in for some interaction.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you. This was a very insightful session. Now we will open this for the audience for any questions. We would request one by one to please.
Katyayani Muralidhar Rao here.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Murli.
Yeah, 3 questions. I'll make it fast. Now Suresh Kumar is in the cabinet, and he has been quite proactive. You will accept. Now with him there,
no,
do you think?
You know,
What?
shall I answer that first? Shall I answer that part first?
Okay.
Mr. Suresh Kumar is the one. Mr. Suresh Kumar is the one who was the urban development minister when this 2011 law was framed and the veto power was introduced. So I mean,
I thought
to remove the veto power, but he had not done it.
I thought he was the most proactive in this matter. I don't know. Okay. Now, second question: is there, the ward committees are now supposedly meeting? There is also 148. It is meeting, but it is. Is there any ward committee which is meeting fairly well? That is second question. Then this question of zonal commissioners, they are already there. But we had a meeting with our local, Bangalore South zonal commissioner, Mr. Lokesh, and we put up a whole lot of issues with him. But he is just unable to do anything because it is Mr. Ramalinga Reddy who decides everything, every white topping or any kind of a digging, anything that happens. Just Ramalinga Reddy rules roost, nothing else. Zonal commissioner cannot do a thing. That is the present state. So how do we make it effective now? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question, because even in this new bill, the MLAs are being made members of the at the apex level in the BBMP council. They have voting rights also, and but in the zonal committee that they have constituted, there is no role for the MLAs. So hopefully things should be better there. But I have a problem with making the zonal commissioner the chairperson of the zonal committee. We had recommended that among the councillors who
Yes, it should be
who are on the zonal committee, all the councillors are there, even in the new bill. We had suggested that one of them should be the chairperson.
Absolutely.
Sorry?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sorry,
that is how it should be.
breaking.
No, I was saying that is how it should be.
Yes, that is what we thought, that the elected representative should head the zone. And
Absolutely.
we had suggested that these chairpersons of the zones should sit on the Greater Bangalore Authority at the apex level. But here, what they have suggested in the new bill is that all these councillors will sit in the zonal committee, and all of them will also sit at the apex level in the BBMP council. All the 109. So I don't see what the purpose will be served, because if they're already sitting in the zonal level, only the chairperson can go to the apex level. That is what we had felt. But anyway, hopeful one good thing in this new bill, which was never there earlier, is that in the very beginning, the powers of the corporation. Can you hear?
Yep.
Hello.
Yes,
in
yes.
The powers of the corporation, it says the corporation shall work as an institution of self-governance. So that is a statement which was never there in the earlier laws. So hopefully because of that, the MLAs should have no say in what is happening, because it is for the councillors to assert themselves and say we are an institution of self-governance. You jolly well MLAs don't interfere in our work. So, but the councillors have never asserted themselves that way. They have been kowtowing to the MLAs, and that is how they are ruling. So we need to really break that and make sure that the councillors assert themselves and assert their independence.
No, the third question: any ward committee functioning satisfactorily?
No, I think Mayor Gangambike was holding her ward committee meetings very regularly. Many of them are holding their ward committee meetings regularly, but it is never happening as it should. If you look at the functions of the ward committee and the information that should be given to the ward committee to ensure transparency, the program of works, every work order issued, every work specification should be available with the ward committee. Now, nobody is giving that to us in writing. It orally something is being said in the ward committee meetings. So totally there is lack of transparency, and to bring accountability, they should be showing us all the bills and vouchers so that we see how the money is being spent, because that is the mandatory function of the ward committee, to monitor the way the funds are being used. Now, who is showing us the way the funds are being used? The program of works itself is not being shown to us. So whatever is happening, even if it's happening regularly, it is eyewash, and most of the ward committee meetings have become just grievance redressal meetings where there is no record of the grievance being raised, there is no follow-up. Are you able to hear?
Yes. I thought Lalita's ward was doing fairly well. That's what I got the impression. Would she like to respond?
Ward committee meetings are held regularly, but not everything is very clear. The councillor himself is clueless about things, right? He has no clue, to be precise, and it's sorry state, but Lord, it is still a grievance board out there while we go, and citizens just barge in, and it's like my lane, my road. That is how it has been happening till now. But we are still saying that somebody should moderate and take up this meeting. I think with this current council coming to an end, I think we are hopeful to do something better in the new one. But meetings are happening regularly, and I think one of the wards really have doing something, and it has been published, and meeting minutes are done. They're trying their level best, but lot of scope to improve.
Thank you.
Yeah, but the big
Right.
problem is unless area sabhas are constituted, there won't be any bottom-up planning. Now, when they are planning what should go into the program of works, I don't think anybody is taking the inputs from the citizens or giving it a formal structure for the citizens to sit and plan. That is not happening. And nobody is able to audit the accounts or audit the works. That provision has also not been included in the rules.
Hello, this is Gautam Kamathi,
Yeah.
24. See, I have some minutes of meeting committees, but they are very vague. Some 6. I have gone through certain minutes of meeting of ward committees through BBMP website. They are very vague minutes. Just generally some points are put and meetings are closed. Anyway, that's a status now. But you were suggesting that area sabha members and ward committee members should be elected. Rather, now they are nominated now. But still, we have already elections for MP, MLA, and a corporator councillor election. Now, another 2 more elections, isn't it a burden? Or how do we do these elections?
It can be done along with the election of the councillor.
Okay. So that is the one.
Huh? It could be all done at once.
One go, yeah. Okay,
yeah,
that was
about
my...
the minutes. Yeah.
No, that is where
right now
in the BS Patil committee report, I think what Ravichandra suggested is the proportional representation in the third tier of that council elections. So proportional representation will take care of these aspects. Would you think so?
That is a good suggestion, because we have also been fighting for proportional representation at the state level and the central level. And if a beginning can be made at this grassroots level, it will show really how the proportional representation system works. I think that is a good suggestion which could be tried. And instead of having an election for the ward committee members, that is an alternative to have proportional representation at the grassroots level. That is something that really needs to be tried out. I'm for it. Yeah, about the minutes of the meeting, may I just answer that?
It's very important. As far as I expected that when we have the light,
Anjali, your voice is very weak.
And also the light,
Anjali, your voice is very weak. We are not able to understand.
Yeah, I could not understand.
Yeah, while he logs in again, one quick query was, see, while in 2017 or 18, all this ward committee constituted, was there an kind of a program, at least, how to conduct ward committee meetings for these corporators conducted, at least in 1 or 2 sessions?
Actually, the court had ordered that capacity building and training has to be done, and Civic was roped in to train the corporators in 2013. And we did a mass training of all the councillors at that time. Then again in 2017, the commissioner asked Civic to conduct trainings. And we conducted trainings in 7 zones. Only one, Bangalore South, was left out. And it was meant for the councillors and the ward committee members. But the attendance was so poor because in some of the wards, the officials would not inform the ward committee members that there is such a training till if the meeting is supposed to happen at 10:30, they would call them at 10 o'clock and say, there's a meeting, you come. So the attendance was very poor. Not even 25% of them attended. And in some wards, the councillors were telling the ward committee members not to attend the trainings. So it was all, though we tried our best, not everybody got trained. And the commissioner was good enough to try and get them trained, but it has not happened effectively at all. And most of the ward committee members, being followers or friends of the ward committee members, they are also not keen on attending the trainings. It has to be made mandatory. Only then they'll come, I think.
Ma'am, there is one query from Nellore. To nominate members to the ward committee, is there any proposal or scope to add a medical practitioner or other person from the ward?
Actually, the law says, and even in the new bill, it says that anybody can be, any official can be invited from any other department to attend the ward committee meeting. So we would strictly say that the school headmaster, the superintendent of the hospital, they should all be invited to the ward committee meeting, so that, you know, issues of education, of health, of urban poor, all those issues also can be taken up. You know, but the provision is there. So any official can be asked to attend the ward committee, but specifically for a medical practitioner, there is no such provision unless they are nominated as part of the 3 posts that are open to anybody. You know, you can use those 3 open membership posts. Like there are 2 SC/STs, 3 women, and 2 registered associations, and 3 members can be anybody else. So in that category, anybody else also can be included, like a retired engineer or a doctor, like you are mentioning, could also be included. But one important thing that nobody has thought of is that in the ward committee rules, existing rules, it says there should be a disaster management cell at the ward committee level. And nobody knows, no, those are not being set up at all. So that is the problem we are facing right now, that at the grassroots, there is nobody monitoring the delivery of rations and the delivery of cooked food to all the migrant workers who are being left, you know, because of this corona epidemic, who are helplessly waiting for food and money and some kind of help. So this disaster management cell has to be activated at the ward committee level, and the ward committee should be taking the lead in providing all these services during a disaster.
Yeah. Any other queries from the audience? It's now 6:50.
Yeah. Just one moment. Lalita, sorry I joined a little later. I just wanted to know, are the non-resident Indians, see there, when we go through my ward 150, the lady, one of the lady who is selected as a ward committee member doesn't even reside in India. So I don't know how that process had happened, and how do we bring this to the notice of the public that she is a non-resident. She though may have a election card, but she is not staying in India from a long time, and she is a ward committee member. So the active members are dropped out, and randomly people are selected. So just wanted to know about it. So how are they selected on?
No, if I understand correctly, she can't be a voter even. Right?
She can't even be a voter. Yeah, and also.
Right.
And the law clearly says that the person who is on the ward committee has to be a member of that area and her name or his name should be on the electoral roll. Only then you can become a ward committee member. So this is a total complete illegality that has happened. And actually we try to bring these issues to the notice of the court, that non-residents also have been made members, and we are raising those issues in a separate petition, as the judge has recommended to us that we should file a separate petition. We are in the process of filing a separate petition to question all this.
Ma'am, in context of this, I remember in one of the session you had guided us. See, it could be this member not being in India at all for a long time, or in times of something, this one of the member resigns for whatever reasons, right? Or a disease, one of the member falls ill and they cannot continue in whatever reasons. In these capacities, how do we get in new members into the ward committee? Because we are already only 10. 1 or 2 cases happens like this. How do we get in new members into the system?
Actually, in the law, there is nothing clear about whether a member can be removed or whether a member can be filled, because the only sentence that is there is that the term of the ward committee is coterminous with that of the corporation. And it doesn't say that anybody can be removed or anybody can be added. And actually, I'm a victim of that I was a ward committee member, but I was suddenly removed. And when I questioned, how come you have removed me? Because the law says my term is up to the end of the term of the corporation. The councillor said, the law doesn't say that you cannot be removed also. So there is total confusion there, whether somebody can be removed or whether somebody can be added.
My God,
this is a loophole, no? This is a loophole in the law, right? There's a loophole in the law then. We need to correct this thing, because if an active member, like my name was suggested, but once in the first list when I see it is there, in the second list I'm not there, but the other lady is already there, which who doesn't even know the ward limits also. So that is where I was confused all these years, and that's why I had this question, that is there any council or is there any process where the board committee members are nominated, or how is it?
Yeah, good question. But like you mentioned, it's already.
Katya, if you were removed, then there is no question on how we can go ahead. Thank you.
That is exactly the question I'm asking. If they can do that to you, what chance do others have? It is too brazen.
It's a shame on our system. That's what I can put it across.
I think I was removed because I was talking too much. So they did not want such members. And now they have taken, in my place, they have taken others. Actually, 4 of us were removed and most of us were very vocal. And now they have taken their own followers in our place, who don't even ask for the meeting.
Is the court monitoring this? Are you getting the court to monitor?
Yes, in the fresh petition that we are going to file, we could not file it because of this lockdown. And we are going to question this removal and addition of the members also without any reason. Because you can be removed only if you become ineligible. If you did something corrupt, you became insane, you became insolvent, all those qualifications are there. If we have not done any of that, then what is the reason for removing us? So I will definitely include that in our petition and question it.
For everything, we'll have to go to court now.
Hello.
Oh, good.
Yeah. No more. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, that is the sad situation. That yes.
Good evening, ma'am. This is Pankaj Kumar Roy here. Yeah, hello.
Yeah, can you take one last question and should we wrap up? I think we're already beyond the time.
Ma'am, I want to ask, I have some concern regarding that. Can I proceed?
Yeah, please ask.
Yeah,
Please
go
ask
ahead.
your question.
Yeah, ma'am, this is Pankaj Kumar Rao here. This is my first meeting in this organization, BNP, and it's a privilege for me. I got a lot of new things by you regarding 73 and 74 amendment. But I am telling
Okay,
that
thank you.
yeah, I also appeared that UPSC exams. Okay. So that Panchayat Raj,
Oh,
madam,
yes.
just I want to introduce. I just not because it's a very effective knowledge I got today. Very good things from top to bottom we came to know, because proceeding anything we should have a good knowledge about some
Thank
topics and
you.
subjects. So that Panchayat Raj, madam, we have more than 300 years of the history. When in the 1700 BC,
Mhm.
that time the Rig Veda, that time the Sabhas, that time it was implemented. So once the East India Company
Mm-hmm.
came, that time they are trying to they demolish these things and they put it in the center power. That is a governor. Everybody knows
Yes.
that. And
Yes.
but you said a very right things that in Gandhiji, the dream was to put Swaraj.
Mm.
It's in 19
Yes.
28
Pankaj,
25 like that.
Pankaj, Srikanth, we are running out of time. Can you quickly ask your question so that we
Yeah,
can finish?
just no, just I would like to, because madam started from
Yeah, let
1992.
him.
I'm going to complete in 2 minutes. I'm not going to take more than time, because I have,
Actually, we already argued
Yes,
all the
please
time.
after
That's
the
why
post
you can come to the
independent, ma'am,
question.
after the post
go ahead.
independent, the second finance commissions that the Balwant Rai suggested, and we adopted block labels. That is called BDO, ADO, like that. A lot of things happened, and day by day we have updated the
Yeah.
system. Now you explained a lot of things regarding
Yeah.
that,
I've
the
lost your
ward
voice.
committee. Hello, ma'am. Are you getting? Hello?
Yeah, Pankaj, all the more.
Your
I
voice
think
is
we are.
breaking.
Can you please ask
Now
your
I can
question?
hear you.
Quickly,
Yes.
we can wrap up.
Yeah. So what happened, ma'am? You explained a lot of things about ward committees and all. Madam, we are a youngster. Okay, this is the new organization. We made it for the good, to do something good for the people. What the effective way we will make it our system very strong,
Okay.
and how still whatever the loopholes are there, to update our ward committees. Maybe that reason will be we are not a good communication with the peoples, and that communication we are not providing to the government. So what the best that we can do, how we are going to make it ourselves effective, and what is the what we will do the next, to adopt all these things, to know and to go proceed and to go ahead. Sorry. Thank you.
Mm. Oh, very good. Yeah, very good questions. I'm so happy you have appeared for the UPSC, or you have been selected already.
Madam, 2 times SSC I rejected. My elder brother is IS officers and all that. Still I'm preparing. I'm in Bangalore now. I'm working in finance company, and
Okay.
I
Okay.
still my age is 29 years, and I'm my whole ancestor from the so a lot of things are there. 2 times I appeared. One time I cleared that. I was in central secretariat for the interview. I was not in the merit list.
Anyway, good luck to you. But to answer your question, yes, we have been petitioning the government about several amendments that need to be brought in this act. And like I already mentioned, some of our suggestions have been taken, but we need to press for many more amendments. And this is one, this is one way of reaching out to all of you to get support for many more amendments that are needed. And we all should give our suggestions to this new BBMP bill that has come. And you all could write to Civic and give your suggestions about the amendments that need to be made. I have put out this new BBMP bill on our Facebook, and in our website. So I would like all of you to go through the entire bill and give your suggestions. And maybe if Srikanth is able to organize a public meeting kind of thing, we could have a big discussion and consultation on it, and we could submit the recommendations to the government, uh, because I'm sure they're already planning to pass this. And until they pass this, I don't think they're going to have the BBMP election, which is supposed to be held in September. So before that, we'll have to press them and see that this bill takes a better form. It's a very good suggestion that you have made. And I hope Murali and Srikanth and all will take it up, and Civic can definitely host it.
Yeah, that will make something difference with the others, and that we are trying to help with the peoples.
Sure, I think input very well taken. We'll work towards that. Lalita, I think now we should bring this to a conclusion. But that last point is, I think, last point is pretty much right closing point that we should have, that the BBMP bill definitely needs to be strengthened. Over to you, Lalita.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. It was a very, very insightful session. Though I had attended one or two of your sessions, still I got additional points, and I hope all our audience and members today who attended also have got an insight about this, and they will also popularize citizen participation in their respective ward committees. Ma'am, one request that I have is going forward in your next ward committee meetings, have to continue regularly, like how we say first Saturday of the month, right? The same way, I think even after the next elections happen, that should continue. I think Civic should put that one in their petition. And second is, right, then only again after this election, if it just gets cut down, again we are back to square one, right? So we don't want that. I think it was a very insightful session. Thank you for your time and patience of 1.5 hours. Appreciate your participation, and all the audience and our members who have joined in today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Srikanth and Soumya, also for giving this opportunity for today's session. Ma'am, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I want to thank Srikanth and all of you for listening in and for giving me this opportunity. It is great. I hope more and more such conferences can, web conference can happen, so that more and more people become aware of this very important thing. And unless we start participating in the grassroots body called ward committee, we really can't make democracy effective in our country and make it a government of the people, by the people, for the people, the way I began this talk. So it's very important that we strengthen this institution and also demand that area sabhas become active, because that is where every voter can participate and decide for his own area what he wants. And it should not be that others decide on our behalf and take the city in directions that we don't want them to take it, and where inequality grows and non-inclusivity happens, and there is so much of environmental unsustainability happening. We as citizens who care for this city, we need to see that this change happens, that the entire development process becomes more inclusive and also sustainable environmentally. Otherwise, we will keep facing these pandemics, which will keep coming, because we have not cared for nature and we have not cared for the environment. And of course, we will have many people suffering because they are not equal partners in development. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you everyone for this time today and patience in listening. And ma'am, thank you for your presentation. Looking forward for such sessions. Yeah. Thank you all.
I hope it was of benefit to everybody who listened.
I think all in chorus can tell that. All in chorus can tell that whether it was insightful.
Yes.
People are on mute, but
yes.
It's a great session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you heard it, ma'am, right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And for those who have missed it, I think this recording will be out there in the social media and everywhere.
Oh, that will be great. Yeah. Please put out
that is
the
what
video.
Srikanth had posted in the beginning itself, that whatever you say will be in the public domain. Yeah. Thank you all.
I hope I didn't confuse too much. I hope it was clear whatever I said.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, Srikanth. Thank you, Lalita.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.